Hey everybody, it's Paul Stevens here with iGo Sales and Marketing with another SuiteCRM tutorial. Sorry it's been a while since I've been making videos. I've been kind of busy, but I did want to make another video here today. I made one recently, well, not so recently, but one of my last videos was on SuiteCRM and setting up campaigns. And I'll put a link down below to that one. And it's a good video on like mechanically how to set up a campaign. However, there are so many different factors that influence a campaign. You know, from how the suppression lists work to subscribes and unsubscribes and people who have opted in and people who have opted out and how all that works. It's just a much larger subject, and the documentation on SuiteCRM is very good at all these things individually all over the place. But what I'm hoping to do today is bring it all together. So if you're a marketer and you're trying to set up an email campaign, that you can find all this stuff in one place. I'm going to put the summary of what I've written out and some useful other things on my blog as well. So if you watch the video and you want to see it in text, you can go to my blog and see it there, and it'll all be easy for you to read. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to cover the mechanics of setting up a campaign because I already did that. But we're going to cover a few different topics here. So let me pull up the documentation that I had here, and I'll just kind of move myself out of the way. Okay, so one of the things you want to make sure that you have before you start, and it's not always super clear, and I'll just make my text here a little bit bigger here for you guys to read. Okay, there are a couple prerequisites before you start with a campaign. Okay, so outbound email accounts, you have to have one set up because the campaign's going to ask for it. You have to have a bounce handling account set up. And again, there's good documentation on how to do all this stuff, but I just want to make sure in one place you know what you need. Okay, and basically it's an inbox for an email that the campaign can go look in to find bounces and then, you know, relate that to your campaign. You also have to make sure that your email settings are set up correctly. If you're using something like Gmail, they have a batch limit. I think it's like 100 or something like that. So you want to make sure you send it in batches of 100. And every email provider is going to have a batch limit. So you want to make sure, like, you can't just send 10,000 to your email provider all at once. They're going to have a limit, and you can set that up there. The other thing you're going to want to think about is making sure that you have your campaign scheduler running. There's a couple cron jobs that you need to, well, there's the global cron job that runs the scheduler that you have to make sure that is set up correctly. The other thing is that you have the two job steps. So one is run nightly mass email campaigns, okay, and it doesn't have to run at night. I don't know why they call it that, but you can have it run whenever you want. The other one is the process bounced emails. So what that is going to do is go to your bounce handling account, look in the inbox and see if it gets any bounces, and it's going to, you know, keep track of that for you. Okay, so before you start, you need those things set up. The next thing I think that's super important is the different campaigns types. Okay, and I know in my last video about campaigns I kind of glossed over that a little bit, but let's just open that up here. Okay, so this is going to be my first video with SuiteCRM 8. I normally do my tutorials with 7, but 8, this stuff will work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to go to campaigns here. Okay, and if I create a new campaign, it's going to give me 4 different types here. So, and again, you can see there's some styling issues going on here. SuiteCRM 8 still needs some fine tuning. But one is a newsletter campaign, one is an email campaign, one is a non-email campaign, and a survey. Okay, so what are the differences? Well, let's get the two that we're not going to talk about today out of the way. So the survey is kind of like SurveyMonkey. If you ever use that, you can create a survey, send it out to your clients, and they can fill it out, and it keeps track of what all the answers are and the statistics and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm not going to cover that one today. And then a non-email campaign would be like if you do a mailing, for example, a postcard or something, and you just want to keep track of who is in that campaign. Then that's where you would do that. Okay, so we're not going to talk about those two today, just summarize them. But newsletter and email are the two key ones here. And they have some quite significant differences, okay? So I put together a kind of a table here, and again, you'll find this on my blog, of all the differences between the two, and they are significant. So the first thing is, what is the purpose, okay? An email campaign is for sending out typically one email to many target lists, okay? Whereas a newsletter campaign is sending out multiple emails to one target list, okay? So there's a bit of a difference there, and it may seem kind of trivial, but there are much further differences. So, for example, opt-ins. Okay, if you're sending an email campaign and you have opt-ins enabled in email settings, and I'm going to go through where all this stuff is, then it will suppress all those emails. It won't send it to them. Okay. Whereas if you use a newsletter campaign, it will send it to everybody regardless of whether they have opted in or not. Okay, so that's a key difference. The other key difference between the two is opt-outs. Okay, so they click on the unsubscribe link at the bottom. Okay, so in an email campaign, opt-outs will remove that contact from all campaigns. Okay, so if you go and do another email campaign and add that person in and they've opted out, won't get the email. Okay, they'll be suppressed. Now, a newsletter campaign, if the person unsubscribes, it only unsubscribes them from the newsletter, that newsletter, okay? Not other newsletters and not other email campaigns, okay? So that's a key difference there. So depending on what you're trying to do, you want to choose which campaign works best for you. The other issues around suppression, okay? So, and by suppression, I mean it won't send the email. They'll be in the campaign, but just won't send them the email. With an email campaign, if the person has not opted in, okay, they won't get the email. They'll be suppressed, even though they haven't opted out. Okay, if you have the setting turned on to manage opt-ins, okay, and that's not done in emails. That's done in general email settings, and I'll show you that in a moment. Whereas a newsletter campaign will only suppress people who are on the suppression list that you attach to that campaign. Okay, so that's a key difference in terms of suppression. So, I mean, in kind of a use case, I kind of touched on this in the beginning, that like an email campaign is better if you're sending a mass email to like multiple target lists. Okay, like I want to send it to customers and suppliers and I don't know, leads and whatever. You have all these different target lists, and you can send this mass email out. Whereas a newsletter campaign is just that. Maybe you have a monthly newsletter, and you have, let's say, 500 people on the monthly newsletter list, and some unsubscribe from it. It doesn't mean they don't get any other emails. They just don't get the monthly newsletter anymore. Okay, and they will get added to the unsubscribe list for that campaign, and every month you'll add a new email, and the people who are on the list and haven't unsubscribed will continue to get it every month. Okay, so that's a good use for the newsletter campaign. The other sort of difference here is between the types of suppression lists that you can use for each campaign. Okay, so if you're doing an email campaign and your suppression list is an email address type suppression list, and again, I'll cover suppression lists later, but it will suppress that email, okay? Or if it's a domain type email, like, so for example, you have the email address of a couple of your competitors on the domain, suppressed by domain, okay? those people will not get the email if their domain matches that suppression list. Okay. Now, if you do a newsletter campaign, because it's different and it's not suppressing the person forever, it's just suppressing the person from this campaign, okay, you need a different kind of suppression list. You need a suppression list by ID, okay, and then that will keep track of unsubscribes, okay. So those are some key differences between the two, and it's not really clear in the documentation either with SuiteCRM or SugarCRM. I had to go through multiple documents and compare all the differences and put them in this table that made it clear. And even I had to, like, you know, kind of organize my thoughts around all this stuff. Okay. So those are some of the key differences there. The other thing that is going to be the difference here is there's another feature that doesn't get covered very often, but you can manage subscriptions by contact. So you can go into the contact and say, subscribe this contact to these 5 newsletters, okay? You can only do that with newsletter campaigns. You can't do that with email campaigns. Anyway, I'll get into all this stuff I've been talking about if it's not clear, but that table will be a good asset to download from my website and keep handy next time you're configuring an email campaign. Okay, so let's talk about suppression lists here for a second. Okay, so when you go and you make a target list, okay, so let me go see here. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to make a target list. Okay, so let's make a new one. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so type. The type here are all the different types of target lists you can do. Okay, and 3 of them you can see here are suppression lists. Okay, one is by domain, one is by email, and one is by ID. Okay, so that's important when you're using these for a campaign. All right, and here are some of the differences. Again, this will be a good thing if you want to download it from my blog. But a suppression list by domain, basically anybody who matches that domain will not get the email. They'll be suppressed. Okay, so even if you just have like dave@website.com, okay, on the list, but on your campaign you have phil@website.com, Dave and Phil will be suppressed. Okay, so that's how that works, and you need that for you need that if you want to. Typical uses like suppressing competitors or something like that. Okay, and then the next type is an email, so suppress by email. Okay, so again, you can choose and make your list to suppress it by email, and that will just suppress the person with a matching email on that list. Okay, so if you have someone says like, you know, I don't want to get that subscription anymore, I don't want to get that email anymore, you can add them to by email address. Okay, so the last type is and it's mostly used by newsletter campaigns, and it must be included in the newsletter campaign, okay, when you set one up, is by the ID. So this is by the person. So this person, not just the email address, because people can have multiple email addresses, but this person will not get any more campaigns that include this suppression list. Okay, so it's kind of like opting out, but it's you know, it has a similar kind of function, except that wherever you use that suppression list, the person will not get any emails from that campaign for sure, regardless of what email he uses in his contact record. Okay, so those are the 3 types, and it's kind of an important distinction when you're creating your campaign to select the right kind of list and create the right kind of target list. Okay, so then the next thing I kind of wanted to cover was opt-ins and opt-outs. Okay, so I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, that opting in is kind of handled in a few different ways here. Okay, so Okay, so there's a few differences between SuiteCRM 7 and a SuiteCRM 8 in how opt-ins are, let's say, displayed. I think probably it's an oversight in SuiteCRM 8, and it's probably not quite finished yet. But I'm going to show you the difference. But basically, if you go into admin, and this is SuiteCRM 8 here, I have opened, and SuiteCRM 7, this part is exactly the same. If you go to email settings, you'll see a few different options here. Okay, one is disabled. Okay, and that means if it's disabled, that if you send out an email campaign, it will not suppress any email addresses. Okay, if you have this set to opt-in and you send an email campaign, it will suppress any contacts who have not specifically opted in. And if you say confirmed opt-in, they have to both be marked as opted in, and they have to receive an email, click on a link, and confirm they've opted in. Okay, so the way that would look is your web form would have like an opt-in check mark, and they would check off the opt-in, and subsequent to that, if you like, you can check this option off, and it will automatically send them an email template that says, are you sure, did you really opt in? If they click on the link, they become opt-in. Okay, so that's the three different settings and how this gets affected. So in SuiteCRM 7, which I'm very used to, okay, I'm looking at a list of leads here, you can see that anybody who has opted in will have a check mark. Anybody who has not opted in won't have a check mark, and anybody who has opted out will have a big X strike through them. Okay, so what is this? Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. What does this one look like? If I go and take a look at it, okay, so you'll see they have an email address, primary, opted out. Okay, if I opt this person in now and save it, and go and take a look at the leads, maybe I have to refresh my screen. Opted in is what I want here, and unopt out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now you can see they have the check mark, and if I go back to the leads here, they are opted in. If I go into this first one here and change it up where it's not opted in, like that, okay, and save the record, you'll see that it doesn't have the check mark. Okay, so if I was to send an email campaign to this person, they would get suppressed. Okay, so that's a key thing to note when you're setting up your email campaigns. So let's go over to SuiteCRM 8. As you can see, none of the emails have that check mark there. Okay, I'm not sure if there's a setting I'm missing somewhere, but I think I'm not. Okay, so in leads, same thing. There's no check mark there. If I go and look at this contact and edit it, you'll see it's slightly different. Okay, there's no other option here other than it. I guess it assumes that they're opted in. Okay, automatically first, because there's no button here for opt-in, specifically opted in. Okay. However, if I opt them out, okay, and save the record, okay, and then go back to my list of leads here, and this is Myrtle Kobos, okay, you'll see nothing's changed here, so you can't really tell who's opted in and who's opted out. Okay, so I think there's still some work to do on SuiteCRM 8 in how that works, but you can see here they have specifically opted out. And if I go into my admin settings for my email settings, you'll see that I do have that opted in selected. Okay, so I think there's some issues in that regard with SuiteCRM 8, but SuiteCRM 7, that's how it works, and I would suspect that in the near future SuiteCRM 8 will work more or less the same way, because it works fairly well. Okay, so that is how all the opt-ins work and how it affects the two different kinds of campaigns. The next thing we're probably going to want to go over here is a couple other reasons why people might get suppressed from your email campaigns. Okay, so one is if somebody, if it's bounce, for example, and it's undeliverable, they will be marked as bounced and undeliverable, and they'll be suppressed from the list. Okay, it will also mark them as an invalid email address, so they won't get further email sent to that email address, which is a good thing, because you don't want to be, especially if you're using like a send grid or something like that, you don't want to be sending them all kinds of invalid emails. They'll give you a poor deliverability rating. Okay, so the next thing, reason why people might not receive the message is because they already got it. Okay, so if you send email A out to 10 people and then try and send email A out to 10 people again in the same campaign, it won't work because they'll be suppressed because they already got it. Okay, so people often run into this when they're doing test lists, and I get clients often say, I've tried to send a test and it's not working. You can only send yourself a test once. If you want to resend yourself a test again, you have to make sure you have to remove the delete test entries. And again, all these instructions are on my blog if you want to go check it out. That's how that works. So the other thing is subscribing and unsubscribing. Okay, so for example, we covered unsubscribes, but if you want to specifically subscribe somebody to a list, there's a couple ways you can do that. So if you're doing an email campaign, I mean, really the only way to do it is to create a target list and then add that target list to the email. But if you have a bunch of different regular sort of like newsletter kinds of campaigns set up, you can do it slightly differently. Okay, so if I go to this contact here, for example, and I'm not sure if I have any newsletters campaigns set up here in test. Let me just double check. Yeah, I do have a couple. Okay, so what I can do here is in the contact, I can go manage subscriptions. Okay, and what that's going to do is going to show me all the available email campaigns that I have set up already, and I can just drag and drop them over, and I can add that to the trade show follow-up campaign now. Okay, so if I save that, that person is automatically going to be subscribed, or in function reality, it's going to be added to the target list for that newsletter. Okay, so that's one thing a little bit, that's kind of a cool feature of newsletters. If you have regular sort of types of email campaigns that you set up, that's a very good way to do it. Okay, and let's see, was there anything else I thought was important here to cover? So we already covered opting in and opting out by individual contacts. The last thing that I think I should go over, because it's kind of confusing for a lot of people, it's kind of confusing for me, is the lawful basis. Okay, so I'm not sure if I have it set up here. Okay, I do have it set up here. By default, these fields are not normally displayed on the front end. They're there, but not normally displayed. And then you have to go into Studio and add them on the front end. Okay, but so we have lawful basis, we have lawful basis source, and date reviewed. Okay, so what the deal here is, if you're doing GDPR, and I'm not a GDPR expert because I'm here in Canada, but we have something called CASL, the Canadian Anti-Spam Legislation. Okay, and it's kind of similar. But basically, you can't send emails out to people who haven't specifically consented to receive those emails. One, there's some very other exceptions to that, like they're an active customer, or you can assume consent because they have received stuff from you in the past, kind of thing. So there's very few exceptions, but for the most part, you have to prove that you have consent. So that's what this is for. So if you have that double opt-in option activated, what's going to happen is they're going to send out, or SuiteCRM is going to send out an email. They're going to click on the link. It's going to record that they did double opt-in, and it's going to record the date. So you're going to have a lawful basis of they opted in. Okay, so there's in Canada there's another another one that is not exactly consent, but it is like you sort of tacitly assume they consented. Okay, so let's say somebody publishes their email address on their website and says contact me. Okay, you don't have their specific consent to contact them, but you can assume because they had a contact page with their email address on it publicly on the web that they are, you know, tacitly consenting to receive emails. Okay, so that would be a type of lawful basis that you are sending out your emails. Okay, so in whatever country you're in, you may have a number of different lawful bases that allow you to send emails. Okay, the date reviewed in many countries, in Canada you have to do it every 2 years for certain type, depending on the type of consent, but you can't, like, you know, dredge up an email from 10 years ago and assume that they consented and start sending the stuff out again. Okay, so you need to keep track of that. And then the other one is the source. Okay, so this all doesn't have to be in writing or from a web form. Okay, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, for example, and you say, hey, you know, can I send you some information by email? And they say yes, you can record that the lawful basis is consent and that the date reviewed is today and that the basis source was a verbal. Okay, so if you ever get in trouble with the spam police or whoever enforces this, you can give them a list of all your contacts, the lawful basis that you assumed was okay to send them emails on, the date it was last reviewed, and also the source that you got the consent from. Okay, so that's what that's all for. And not everybody has to use that. You know, in the US, it's not quite as stringent as it is here in Canada or in Europe, but that's how that's supposed to be used out. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to cover was if you do need to gather this consent, there are a couple different ways you can do it. And actually in Canada, you're not allowed to just massively send out an email to people and say, do you consent to get emails? But SuiteCRM allows you to actually resend that opt-in email. Okay, so first of all, in settings, you have to have that opt-in, confirmed opt-in enabled. And then from your bulk actions, you'll see that you'll have a send confirmed opt-in email, and you can send that to a list of people, or from an individual contact in your actions list, you'll see you have a drop down that says send confirmed opt-out. Okay, and that's about it. So I included all the source materials here. You can see all the different documents I had to scan through to come up with all this stuff in a relevant way. I'm going to post this on my blog. Links will be down below. Please feel free to visit. And remember, I do this for a living. I help people set up SuiteCRM, help them with their sales process, help them with their email marketing campaigns. You know, I also build websites, do all kinds of other stuff. But if you need help with any of those things, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is going to be down below. And thank you for watching.